I wonder if you ever thought about this. I grew up as a kid in a really rainy spot on the coast of Washington. It's really wet. It's very gloomy. Fewer Sundays, not Sundays like Saturday Sundays, fewer sunny days than almost anywhere in the country. In fact, in my high school basketball league, we used to play a team called Forks, and it's the wettest place in the continental United States. We played them one time in a high school football game. At halftime, we went in, turned on the hot showers, and just in our jerseys stayed in them. I mean, that's the kind of weather I grew up in. But I don't remember it. I don't remember rainy days. I remember the good days on my little motor scooter, driving up and down the hills on Washington State, playing basketball with my friends. I don't remember the rain. I really don't. I know high school there was a bunch, but I grew up in the wettest part of the continental United States, on the coast of Washington State. And I remember almost no rainy days. It seems to me I was always going to my friend Jack Jones's house after school and playing hoops in his driveway. We were hanging out outside. Why is that? Is that a protective mechanism? Does our brain do that to protect us? We don't remember the dark and the sad and the painful. People go on Facebook and they pursue relationships that ended horribly. But you don't remember that. You remember the good times. That's why you keep going on ski trips with your kids, even though it's mostly a headache. Because you remember that 3 or 4 minute drive up the hill. You get on the chairlift. You're going down, watching your son, your daughter ski for the first time. You don't remember all the headache getting the equipment, renting the equipment, the cost, the drive home, they throw up. And I was thinking about this with LeBron going to Los Angeles for the Lakers. I've had so many people say, you really think he would go to the Lakers? And I'm like, well, what would the downside be? His legacy is set. He's the second best player of all time. His only chance to be number one is to move and win a third title with a third team. Then you get back to the GOAT argument. I mean, MJ went to the Wizards. That was a mess. Can you imagine a guy that was so great he went to 3 teams and won everywhere? What's the downside? Because, folks, you don't remember Dominique Wilkins last year. He played for Orlando, 5 points a game. I say Dominique Wilkins, you just think of the dunks. Do you remember Shaq's last year with the Celtics, 8.5 points a game? You don't. Kareem's last year, all-time leading scorer, averaged 10. Michael Jordan and the Wizards lasted several years. To me, it's a blur. I even saw him play live. It's a blur. Magic's comeback in 95 or 96 when he only started 9 games. Listen, man, if Grandpa unravels in the last couple years, we remember the good Grandpa, not the crazy, unhinged Grandpa. We don't remember the breakups. We remember the good times. Somebody once told me, you know why women have multiple babies? Because they can't remember the pain. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard it before. But in life, everything's sort of foggy, right? When you look back at your life, you don't remember gloomy Tuesday. You don't remember cloudy Wednesday. You remember the trip to Disneyland as a kid. If LeBron goes to L.A. and they don't win, so he's going to be like all-time leader in this stat, this stat, that MVP, that final, that. He won in Miami. He won in Cleveland. He went to L.A. What's the downside? He's number 2 right now. You're not going to remember Lakers that fizzles out after 3 years. Kobe's last 3 years in Los Angeles, he stayed. And we celebrate his 60-point final game. Lakers were terrible Kobe's last 3 years. But you think of it fondly. Do you remember Akeem with the Raptors? I don't. Patrick Ewing on the Sonics? I've got no recollection. Michael Jordan's Wizards tenure? Foggy at best. We assign an alternative ending to our reality. We forgive the final chapter when Grandpa goes unhinged or when Michael goes to the Wizards. We just don't want to remember it. And I always think when I was a kid, I grew up in the wettest part of the United States. I don't remember rainy days. Is it a protective mechanism? Is my mind wanting me to have positive memories? I don't know how it works. But I just look at the history of all sports and all athletes. We are incredibly forgiving. So go for it. Roll the dice. Got to be honest with you. Mark Cuban's a smart guy, but tanking doesn't work. Who are the good teams in the league right now? Houston never tanked. Spurs never tanked. Celtics never tanked. Raptors never tanked. You notice that? Philly tanked. Phoenix tanked. Where are they? Like this tanking thing. I don't buy it. You know what you win in the NBA? You win titles with veteran stars. And veteran stars don't want to enter rebuilds and losing cultures. Tanking equals losing. We think of the Boston Celtics as a rebuild, but they were never willing to be awful. And think about all the draft picks they have had since Danny Ainge arrived. I think it's like 23. And this is the best rebuild in basketball. This is, when we look at the rebuilding years in the last 5 or 6 in the NBA, Boston, well, that's the gold standard. Boston is how you do it. Right now, today, if everybody was healthy on that roster and you had 10 seconds to go in a playoff game, the first guy you'd give the ball to is Kyrie Irving, veteran. Second guy you'd give it to if he was healthy would be Gordon Hayward, veteran. And third guy would be Al Horford. You would give it to Al Horford before Jaylen Brown with 10 seconds left and before 19-year-old Jason Tatum. Here's 3 things that don't work in sports, and all these GMs and executives keep doing the same thing and making the same mistakes. Spending big money on wide receivers in the NFL. It doesn't work. Giving a Major League Baseball star a 10-year, $200 million contract. It doesn't work. And tanking in the NBA. Maybe it used to work when you get a Tim Duncan. Maybe it used to work when you get a Patrick Ewing, who was 23, developed, emotionally ready. But Dallas tanked last year, got a great rookie, and they're still awful. Like, when are we going to figure out that the Minnesota Timberwolves hit 2 grand slams, Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins? They finally got good when they signed a guy that had been around the league for a while, Jimmy Butler. Mark Cuban's a smart guy, but if you look around the landscape of the NBA, the teams that stars want to go to didn't tank. Golden State didn't tank. They were bad. They didn't tank. Houston never tanked. Spurs never tanked. Boston never tanked. Raptors never tanked. I think it's one of those, it's mythology. I think tanking used to perhaps work. It doesn't anymore. What star veteran player wants to join a losing basketball culture? Now, I'm not saying just because you're losing, the Lakers are losing, they don't have a losing basketball culture. The Clippers do. But veteran stars do not want to join shipwrecks. And right now, Dallas is a shipwreck. To me, that's the number one reason they can never sign free agents. Because their legacy is lightning in a bottle, one Dirk title, but by and large, average to below average. That's not the kind of forces superstars in the NBA are joining.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.